European. We're a bit more mature. We're like born and raised to be a bit more mature than we are. And it's not even like I love it there. I just love it here much more.
Salud din Chișinău. So this country, Moldova, it is very infrequently visited. Even more so, it is not a very popular choice for relocation. But if you are one of those intrepid travelers or expats that decide to set up shop here in Moldova's capital, Chișinău, there are many things that are part of the social etiquette here in Moldova that you need to conform with or avoid doing if they are going to be considered faux pas and you don't want to upset your new hosts in your new home, Moldova. So in this video, I'm going to outline 5 do's and 5 don'ts for Moldova. Hai să mergem!
Experience.
So the first big do here in Moldova is to go and enjoy a vineyard. Now, of course, you have to be someone who drinks alcohol, obviously, to enjoy that fully. But even if you don't drink alcohol, Bessarabia, as it's known, this greater region, produces really delicious food on top of it. So it would be better, of course, if you're going for a wine tasting at a vineyard if you drink alcohol, because whilst I think there are a few non-alcoholic wines, well, yeah, it's not the norm, obviously, with wine that it's going to be non-alcoholic. But this country, you basically cannot swing a dead cat without hitting a vineyard. There are so many, and they are amazing in terms of the wine that they produce. And it's basically a national pastime. So number 1 do in Moldova is to take a tour of a winery and enjoy the amazing Bessarabian cuisine.
Где мы, Анжела?
Ми в Асконі, винодільні Асконі.
Як тут?
Ну, дуже цікаво, ми вперше, але з усіх інших виноділень, мені здається, воно відрізняється від інших. Ми були в Паяна, ми були в Кастел Мімі, Пуркар,
тут в Асконі,
Кожужна і ще одна була. Там, коли я приїхала після Італії, ми туди поїхали.
Шато-Вертелі.
Шато-Вертелі.
Так.
Це вже 6.
6?
6, так.
Ух ти.
Да.
Ти експерта.
Ну, найбільше мені сподобалося це вино в Пуркарі, а архітектура найбільше мені, напевно, здається, сподобалась Кастел Мімі.
Кастел Мімі, так, Кастел Мімі теж. І тут є хата, де ми спали, так?
Так, тут є наша,
гарне,
це наш будинок,
що
ти збудував.
думаєш, автентична, традиціональна хата?
Так, можна сказати, що традиційна.
Традиційна, так?
Да. Така хатка. Цікаво
Подобається цей стиль, або ні?
Я думаю, що це цікаво. У мене це вперше, через що для мене це фарте інтересант.
Foarte interesant. Vorbești limba română?
Da, eu vorbesc puțin limba română.
So the second do here for Moldova is to learn some basic Romanian. Whoa, some kids screaming there. I don't know which language. I think it's universal screeches of a child playing with the pigeons over there behind me. But yeah, the national language, the official language here of Moldova is Romanian. It's a Romance language, so in the same family as, say, Italian, Spanish. I know a lot of Americans, they study Spanish at high school, so going to be a little bit familiar to Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Catalan, French, those kind of languages, although it is a little bit further away and takes a bit longer in my experience to learn, at least speaking in a little bit of Romanian when you get here to Moldova will be much appreciated and make you stand out a little bit more from the bog standard tourist who just uses English everywhere. Of course, even better if you go and you learn it in a little bit more depth than the basic phrases, and you actually learn it to say at least a basic level, and then obviously on, if you're really committed to Moldova, to learn it to fluency, because that is a game changer for an experience if you're thinking long term. Now, in addition to Romanian, Russian is widely spoken in Moldova. It is de facto, I'd say, bilingual here in Chisinau. So if you also speak Russian, then it's going to come in handy. Here, the level of English is not super high. That is a common complaint by guys that I meet here who don't speak Romanian or Russian, is that they really struggle with the language barrier because the level of English is not like in, say, neighboring Romania or in, say, Poland, if you're used to other countries in the region, never mind going to Scandinavia or to a country like the Netherlands where they more or less speak English better than your Irish boy here almost because the level is so high. It is not like that. Now, of course, younger people, more educated people, people work in IT, for example, going to speak pretty decent English, but you can't bank on that, especially if you're doing your daily stuff here or if you're trying to socialize with people that you meet. It's going to be a bit tricky overall if you don't speak Romanian or you don't speak Russian. So the third big do in Moldova is to go to Orhei Vechi. It is a fantastic historical area, maybe about an hour north, a little bit more than an hour north of the capital Chisinau, where you have these monasteries in the rocks with a beautiful vista over the river. And it is probably the most beautiful part of Moldova, and it is definitely worth going to. There are a lot of great restaurants and, of course, vineyards on the way, so you can make your merry way, quite literally merry way, to Orhei Vechi. It is a must-see when you are here in Moldova. Now, the fourth do for a trip to Moldova, here's some sirens in the background, but different sirens because we are in very close geographical proximity to Ukraine and the Russo-Ukrainian war, and there is always a lingering threat here in Moldova, so you need to check the latest news and the latest updates from your and advice from your embassy, whether you're American or British or French or German or from somewhere else in the world. Check that before you get on the plane to Moldova so that you are aware of something if it's happened. Maybe there's a potential coup d'etat or something. These are the times that we live in, unfortunately, in 2024 with the Russo-Ukrainian war. Whilst it has not directly impacted significantly Moldova in terms of violence, there is always a risk. There is the region of Transnistria, which is a de facto separatist and pro-Russian part of the country. It's not very big, but it is there and de facto controlled by separatist forces, and there are Russian soldiers stationed there. I do not advise that you go to Transnistria. If something were to happen to you there, your embassy will not be able to help you. Another region of potential conflict is Gagauzia, which is a small part of Moldova in the south. So that is under de facto and de jure Moldovan control. So the situation is a little bit more relaxed if you go there. But Transnistria is at your own risk, and you need to stay up to date with the latest in the region and have some sort of evacuation plan in your head, at least before coming here in the worst case scenario, so that you can get out safely by land. That would probably be to head straight to Iași in Romania. The fifth and final do in this list for coming to Moldova is to plan a longer trip than just a weekend, or not be the weekend warrior here, because to really get value out of your experience, from what I see with clients, friends, and other guys who come up to me and tell me about their experiences here, because obviously I have this YouTube channel, and in there, at the moment, there's no one else really promoting the idea of coming to Moldova other than me. So I'm the person who's most recognizable in English if you are planning to come to Moldova. So no surprise that a lot of guys come up to me, and occasionally girls as well, who are foreigners and spending time here. And basically the guys and girls who have the most positive things to say are the ones who committed to staying longer, because people are a little bit reserved here, I think, in Moldova. If they don't see you around a bit, they're probably not going to invest the time into getting to know you. I think people are polite in Moldova, but to really make friends and enjoy the local culture, it's a bit like everywhere, but I think in particular here, you need to be spending more time than being the weekend warrior and coming in here and trying to party hard on a summer's weekend. The feedback I got from guys who did that was a lot of frustration. They didn't really meet anyone, whether they were single guys or they were not single guys. Didn't really matter. They seemed like it was a bit of a struggle. But I met, for example, a Peruvian guy earlier today who came up to me on the street. I think it was last summer, it may have even been the summer before, but he was there with his Moldovan girlfriend, and he has spent a lot of time here. He spends about half the year, because I guess he has visa free for 90 days every 180. So over the year, that's going to be about it's going to be 180 basically per year, more or less. And he is loving it here and getting full value out of his time. So yeah, don't come just for a weekend if you can. Obviously, if you only get a weekend free, understand. But the feedback is that the people who are enjoying Moldova and getting to savor, I guess they go in they get to go to 10 vineyards as opposed to maybe one, and you know, they really get into the local culture and make friends and actually have a great time here, are the ones who spend a good amount of time. So not the weekend warriors, but people are thinking of, you know, even if they don't go and get a visa, they are coming and spending, you know, a couple of months at least.
It ended up that I did my study abroad here, my Erasmus from a German university in Moldova, and I absolutely fell in love. And I actually, before that, had a couple of Moldovan friends who studied at my German university. And they were so sweet and so kind and brought me into their lives. And I thought, why not come to Moldova? Why not integrate myself into the life here? And I took the plunge and it ended up being absolutely incredible, so I stayed.
So, the 5 don'ts, the things you want to avoid if you come here to Moldova are: number 1, be respectful. Don't come here and think because you're American or you're Brit that you can just behave as you feel like a bore. We had the incident recently with Johnny FD that I reacted to, where he went around basically trying to trespass on people's private property and scolded them that he was expected to walk around their private complex to get to his hotel. You cannot behave like that. Fortunately for Johnny FD, no one got violent with him or called the police because, well, yeah, I would have actually expected that to be kind of the more, unfortunately, more normal reaction of people when they meet an aggressive person like that who's telling them that they don't have rights to their own property. So definitely be respectful. Don't think that just because you're an American citizen, for example, that you can just misbehave. Your government is not actually obliged to get you out of prison if you break the law. They are obliged to give you, or they're supposed to give you, advice and consular assistance, but that doesn't not mean that just being an American gives you carte blanche to behave any way you want, and that, you know, you're just going to make a call to the US Embassy from your prison cell and say, hey, yeah, just send the car and get me out of here. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, be respectful where you go and obey the law here. Pretty much common sense in most countries you go to, but anyways, sometimes you have people who just think because they're American or British or Western European or from somewhere else that, yeah, or maybe from an Arabic country, that they can behave any way they want, and that won't be, in general, the right way to go if you come here to Moldova in order to endear yourself to the locals. Second big don't is don't take photos or video clips of sensitive objects. They include anything that's military, anything that is governmental in terms of, you know, the parliament is over there, and you got the presidential palace, and anything to do with the Moldovan military. Do not take any clips of it. That is because, in general, that's not allowed. And second of all, you have the Russo-Ukrainian war next door and tension between Moldova and Russia, and they do not want people filming their military or governmental institutions. I actually was sitting at a cafe and a plainclothes member of the Moldovan Securitate security services actually came and asked me if I was filming with a drone when I was just sitting watching a video clip in the cafe. And yeah, I wasn't filming with my drone, but it seemed like someone was actually filming over, I think it was over the parliament over there, and they were trying to track down the person to presumably have a crossword with them and maybe even charge them with filming illegally. So definitely be very respectful of that if you come here to Moldova. All right, so the next thing to not do if you come to Moldova and you are a single guy, I'm speaking to the single guys here. This is not a dating culture in which you can go Dutch, as they say. Here you need to be the man with the plan. Do not invite a Moldovan girl out on a date and expect her to either pay for the date or to go 50-50 with you. That's not how things work in this region, and you are expected to foot the bill.
So basically I have a friend who went out on a date with this guy that we both knew,
and they went to Starbucks.
Okay.
She went first. No, I think he went first. He ordered, and the how do you call them? The
Barista or the person who
it's not
served?
really okay. Let's say a barista. Okay, the barista was waiting for her order too because she was expecting him to pay, and it's like we're not speaking about an extreme
Amount of money. We're talking about a
amount
coffee.
of money. We're talking about a coffee.
€5
5
top.
euros maximum. And he's like, oh yeah, that's it. And I was like, it's just a coffee. It's really not. It's like the bare minimum. You don't have to spend like 1,000 euros. Just one coffee and it's enough. And they're the type of people that would just like, they're so selfish. They only care about themselves.
And you are also expected to plan it. Do not ask girls 50 questions about what they like to do and where they want to go and what is X, Y, and Z. See, a lot of foreigners do this. This will annoy the girls and make you look incompetent that you cannot plan a simple date. Moldovan women are known, well, maybe they're not actually not so known for their worldwide for their beauty, because normally people rant and rave on the internet about Ukrainians and Russians in terms of their beauty, maybe occasionally Romanians, and people forget about the Moldovans. But in my opinion, the average level of beauty here is very high. So if you're a single guy, you're probably going to be very keen to go on dates here. But remember that there is no going Dutch. It is not the norm here. And also, just another thing, the price level here is a lot lower than, say, in Western Europe or North America. But don't keep harping on about that, especially if you are on a date, because you're going to make the local people feel a bit bad about, well, for them, on a local salary, it's not going to be super cheap prices. I would say compared to Western Europe, it might be maybe as much as half the price here if you could go out to a restaurant or to a cafe. And don't emphasize that, because then you'll also set yourself up as a mark for girls to take advantage of you or just other people in general. There isn't a big issue here with scamming. It's not like back in the day in Odessa or in Ukraine or St. Petersburg in Russia that I documented on my channel many years ago, where we had massive issues with dating scams. It doesn't really seem to be that way in Moldova, from what guys tell me, but don't go talking excessively about how cheap things are. Just keep that to yourself when you are paying the bill.
Суеверия у нас, да.
Да? Например.
У нас суеверий очень много, но самое такое сильное — это черный кот.
А,
Не
черный
знаю,
кот,
у вас
да?
такое есть, что если дорогу перешел черный кот, то все, капец, идти нельзя. Если ты перейдешь после черного кота, то будут какие-то неприятности у тебя сильные.
I would say the fourth big series of don'ts kind of applies to everywhere in the region. There are regional superstitions and there are things that you are not supposed to do. Otherwise, people here in general tend to be a bit superstitious, a bit more superstitious than we are in Western Europe or in North America. And like things whistling in the house or leaving the trash out at night, they are portents of bad luck and not having money. And obviously, with this country having been in the Soviet Union under communism for many decades and then experiencing a huge economic calamity in the early 90s, that is a big fear for people, and people tend to be a bit superstitious, so just be aware of them. So the fifth and final don't, if you come here to magical Moldova, is overstay your 90 days visa-free every 180, because it is going to be a big temptation. In my experience with my clients and my friends is that they can't get enough of Moldova when they come here. And it's interesting because if you were to Google around or search around on YouTube for Moldova, you're just going to see like probably this day scores if not hundreds of videos trying to imitate that famous video by Bald and Bankrupt Ben Rich, where he talked about basically no one comes here, it's awful, and he filmed really terrible dilapidated parts of the city center. And they did exist when he filmed them, and some of them, they do exist today. But the reality is that doesn't represent the typical experience of coming to Moldova, because it's actually pretty pleasant here. It is not maybe Dubai or in terms of super luxury, but it is very authentic, organic, and quite pleasant. And they've really beautified the city center a good bit since then. And every summer there are more and more great restaurants and cafes and bars and different things to do in general. In terms of nightlife or just socializing, so a lot of guys, they need to figure out after the end of their 90 days visa-free. Most visitors here are going to have 90 days visa free every 180. They want to stay longer, especially if they came at the beginning of the summer. And then, the weather here is fantastic as well in Moldova. I mean, it might get a little bit too hot. We did a 1 week where it was 40 to 45 degrees Celsius, but in general, it's just got a really pleasant climate. And guys want to stay longer, but do not overstay the 90 days every 180, because then you'll get a fine and a ban and you won't be able to come back. If you're a recidivist, you can keep doing it often enough that you probably get a ban for a long time. So at that point, you need to sort out a visa and a strategy for living long term in Moldova, but I'll save all that very esoteric information and knowledge for another video. So Moldova is definitely one of the least visited countries in Europe. And as a result of that, there are very few resources available for either travelers or people who are relocating to this country. And in effect, most people are coming to Chisinau, the capital, are going to fly in here or arrive here by bus or by train, and then visit the city and probably the hinterland. And if they are relocating, nearly everybody who relocates to Moldova comes here to the capital. It is a city of just over 600,000 people. The country's population is a little over 2.5 million. So in light of that, and seeing how long it took me to figure out where everything was in Moldova, and in particular where all the amazing cafes, restaurants, bars, clubs, the hospitality part, took a lot of research, but your Irish boy here enjoys his food, so I'm not complaining about that. But if you're coming here, I can save you a huge amount of time, because I put all that information into a short guide, and it is available down below in the description to this video. There is a link you can go and get your copy. Basically, it will save you months and months and months of time in terms of figuring out where everything is, and you can hit the ground running here when you arrive in Chisinau, whether it's summertime or winter. So today we actually got a little bit of cloud. It's not that warm. It has been an incredibly hot summer here in Moldova, about between 40 and 45 degrees Celsius every day for a week, just about 10 days ago. But now actually there's a little bit of cloud. It's been a bit windy today. So yeah, it's kind of taking a little bit of the energy out of me compared to normal. So hopefully, having watched this video, you will avoid any of the significant faux pas that foreigners are prone to making when they arrive here in Moldova, and you will have a fantastic trip or even new life here in this part of New Europe. See you in the next video, and o seară bună din Chisinau, Moldova. Ciao, ciao!